Yeah. 3-6, mafia.
Yeah.
Whoa. Hey. Yeah. Whoa.
Say what? Whoa. 3-6 mafia. It's going down. Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you. In the club, in the street.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to No B.S. Season 3, Episode 10. Me and Isaiah, we are going to get you some nice, fantastic sports topics today. But first, let me check in with Isaiah. Isaiah, how are you doing tonight, my good sir?
Trevor, I am doing so fantastic today because not only is today Friday, but today marks 6 more days until your boy goes back to work for the Oakland A's for the first time in 2 years. I mean, who can ever believe that? Like the last 17 months, it's been filled with so much anger and sadness and depression because you guys know how much I love working for the Oakland A's, and I haven't been able to work for the Oakland A's because of the pandemic. And not even like 4 months ago, I didn't even know if I would be able to work for the A's this season because of COVID, and there was just so much uncertainty if there were going to be fans in the stands. But thank goodness, a couple months later, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, said that there would be fans in the stands, and I've been crossing my fingers and praying and hoping that, COVID wouldn't rear its ugly head and I would be able to go back to work. And man, now I am 6 days away from going back to work with the Oakland A's, and it feels so great. It feels so unreal, but it feels really exciting as well. But Trevor, I'm also excited because of one of the topics that we're going to talk about on tonight's show, and that is my San Francisco 49ers made a huge trade today. Kyle Shanahan put all of his chips in the middle of the table and said, let's go. I am going for it, and I freaking love it. And the 49ers are throwing it back to the 1980s. The dynasty is coming back. We are going to get either my guy Zach Wilson, who I loved ever since his days at BYU, or Trey Lance, Furman's guy, or Justin Fields from Ohio State. It's going to be kind of weird because I don't like Ohio State for me to have to cheer for a guy from Ohio State. But hey, if he balls out in the red and gold, it's all good. So it's great, man. Jimmy G is bye-bye, and the rookie is on its way, and a dynasty is on its way.
I am waiting to see what happens in the draft, and the 49ers don't draft a QB, and how you're going to lose it. I'm waiting for that to happen. But let's go and check in with Furman. Furman, how are you doing tonight?
I'm really happy today. I woke up with some really exciting news, and I can't wait to just tell everybody what my thoughts are on it, and I can't wait to get to that. I mean, This is something else. I did not expect to see this coming. I definitely, saw some, I envisioned something else, happening before the draft, but it wasn't this. And this was crazy. I can't believe it. And, I just hope that the 49ers make the right decision.
Let's hope they do, but at the same time, I have a feeling something's going to go wrong and you're all going to be upset about it. I'm just going to watch in the group chat and be like, wow, this is just great. But let's dive into tonight's topics, gentlemen. Let's start off with your 49ers as they trade up and take the Miami Dolphins' third pick. I want to go to Isaiah. What is your reactions to this trade? And, what does this mean for the 49ers? Do they get rid of Jimmy G? Or are they going to look for another quarterback and replace Jimmy G? Like, what are your thoughts on this, moving up to the third round? Not the third round, the third pick of the draft.
Well, first of all, this was my reaction, Trevor, when I got the news this morning.
Shanahan, Saleh, and John Lynch. And they are the number 1 seed for the first time since 1997. Post-game report coming up right next.
That was my reaction to the news. I am so happy and so stoked that we were able to make this trade. You know, like I said in the beginning, this is Kyle Shanahan putting all of his chips on the middle of the table and saying, I am going for it, and I freaking love this move. You know, this is a franchise-altering trade by the San Francisco 49ers. Like Adam Schefter said in his tweet when he first broke the news of this trade is going to have major ramifications for years to come. Kyle Shanahan just bet his entire 49ers coaching tenure on this rookie quarterback. If this rookie works out, great. But if this kid turns into a bust, Kyle Shanahan will be fired by the 49ers in 2 to 3 seasons. There's no more excuses for Mr. Shanahan. This is your guy now. This is who you hitch your wagon to. And, you know, I believe, Trevor Furman, that the 49ers, they needed to make this move because you could not run Jimmy Garoppolo back for another season. You just couldn't if you wanted to win a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a decent quarterback, but the guy just can't stay healthy. I mean, he's had so many injuries, from shoulder injuries to, you know, torn ACL, and then he had that ankle injury this season. The guy just can't stay healthy. He's a great person, but he just can't stay healthy. And you got to have a quarterback that can stay healthy if you want to win in this league. And also the other thing about Jimmy Garoppolo is Jimmy Garoppolo just doesn't throw the football down the field that well enough for you to be able to have a downfield passing threat. When you look at teams that play the 49ers, they don't fear the 49ers from throwing the deep ball because they know that Jimmy Garoppolo cannot throw the deep ball. All the teams do on defense is they stack the box, stop the 49ers run game, and put everybody towards the middle of the field because they know Jimmy Garoppolo, all he aims to do is throw those intermediate to short passes, which he's good at. And once you take that away, you expose Jimmy Garoppolo and you make him a scrub. So the 49ers, they needed a quarterback that can throw the football down the field and also a quarterback that can be a threat with his mobility, and that's not Jimmy Garoppolo. And, you know, also, you know, now with Jimmy Garoppolo most likely out the door and with this rookie most likely taking the place of Jimmy Garoppolo, most preferably a Zach Wilson or Justin Fields or even Trey Lance from North Dakota State, the 49ers, like I said, they're going to exponentially upgrade their offense because now you can't just stop the running game. You're going to have to stop the downfield passing attack, which they're going to have with that rookie. And also, the 49ers, I believe, if they draft Justin Fields, if they draft a Zach Wilson, or if they draft Trey Lance, all three of those quarterbacks, they're very mobile. So Kyle Shanahan can dial up plays where the quarterback, you could give it to the quarterback and he can run a read option or he can run the zone read, just like what Kyle Shanahan did when he was with the Washington Redskins and they had Robert Griffin III. So this takes our offense up a couple of notches. It's a great day to be a 49ers fan. And also another great part of making this move is the fact that, you know, when you move off of Jimmy Garoppolo and his $26 million per year salary and you go to this rookie who's probably only going to be making like $5 million a year for the next 4 years, it gives you a much more longer Super Bowl window for you to contend. You can get the money that you're going to be saving from trading Jimmy G and going to the rookie, and you can either extend Nick Bosa, extend Fred Warner, extend some of the key pieces that you have on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, and you can use that money that you save as well to give your quarterback more weapons on offense and also some protection on the offensive line to protect your rookie quarterback and make him great. So I love this trade as a 49ers fan. I'm so happy that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they pulled the trigger on this because, you know, Trevor Furman, there were a lot of options that were thrown out there the past month, you know, from Matthew Stafford to Mitchell Trubisky, Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco. I wasn't liking some of these options, and I was like, oh my gosh, man, we are going to have to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo for another year, and I'm going to be absolutely sick to my stomach, and it's going to be another wasted year down there in Santa Clara, California. But John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they proved me wrong tonight. They had the guts to make this move, and I'm so glad that they did it. And, right now there's a lot of rumors floating around that the 49ers, they might have traded up to get that Oregon offensive lineman, Penei Sewell, or Devontae Smith, the wide receiver from Alabama, or even Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida. But let me pour some cold water on that notion. You don't trade 3 first-round picks and move up from 12 to number 3 to get an offensive lineman or a wide receiver or even a cornerback. No, you did that to get your franchise quarterback, and I would be extremely shocked and pissed off if the 49ers drafted an offensive lineman, if they drafted a wide receiver, if they drafted a tight end, if they drafted a running back, if they drafted a corner or another defensive lineman with that number 3 pick. You have to take a quarterback with that number 3 pick. That's why you traded up to get your franchise quarterback. And I really hope Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they do take a quarterback. And one last thing before I hand the floor back to Trevor and Furman for them to give their thoughts is, I got to say this. Zach Wilson, come on down, big fella. You will look so good in red and gold. I know the jersey right now says Mullins on the back, but if you come, Zach Wilson, number 4 automatically becomes Wilson with the number 4 on the back. I mean,
hold on. Number 4. I don't think he wants number 4 now. He wants that nice Montana 16.
Well, Trevor, first of all, he's not going to get, the Montana 16, obviously. But I think he was number 1 at BYU, and no quarterback wears number 1 except for Kyler Murray. Come on, man. There's no quarterback that wears number 1 in the NFL. So the Niners, they're going to give him another number, preferably number 4, so I don't have to, buy another 49ers jersey for $80. But Trevor, Furman, I want you guys to take a look at this great play by Zach Wilson that made me really sold on him that happened a couple of years ago.
He'll throw it here on first down, pressure up the middle. Wilson gets away from trouble. Oh, wide open receiver. It's caught inside the 20. Out of an empty set here. It's a design quarterback run for Wilson straight ahead. First down and touchdown.
You guys see that play right here? Like, not the second play in that clip, but the first play in that clip. There is only 4 quarterbacks in the NFL that can make that play. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, and Patrick Mahomes. That's it. No other quarterback can do that besides those 4. And Zach Wilson, he's got the athleticism. He's got the mobility to do that type of stuff. He's got the arm talent to be able to do that type of stuff as well. And that is why I'm so excited. And I want Zach Wilson with my San Francisco 49ers. Robert Saleh, Mike LaFleur, New York Jets. If you guys aren't listening, do not steal my guy, please. I want Zach Wilson in the Bay. Do not steal my guy. Leave him for the 49ers.
Furman, what about you? Your reactions to this trade moving up to number 3 for the 49ers. The good, the bad, the ugly about this, and do you think the 49ers will let you down?
Wow, this has been very crazy. And, this is definitely a trade that we have to really evaluate because we gave up 2 first-round picks in the future and a third-round pick and our current first-round pick in the 12th overall pick to the Dolphins in order to take a really risky pick up at 3rd overall. But at the same time, this was definitely something that could not be avoided from the 49ers. By the 49ers because they have so much depth in their roster right now that they need to go on a championship run. And right now, I think it's their peak and they have to really make everything happen and pay off immediately. So trading up to the 3rd pick is one of the best moves of 2021 in the NFL because there are so many good prospects, especially quarterbacks coming out. And these quarterbacks will not disappoint because of their performances and also how big of an arm and how mobile they are. There's a lot of great quarterbacks coming out early in the first round. So the 49ers, if they're going to get a mobile quarterback and, they're going after one of these crazy quarterbacks up in the draft boards, it's definitely a really good sign. I really hope that they do just that. But at the same time, I am very paranoid about this third pick because the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they always have this tendency to make the weirdest decisions, especially in the draft. And I just want to throw this out here. If Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch can hear me right now, if you guys traded all these draft picks to the third overall pick and draft Mac Jones, I will seriously boycott half of the NFL season, half of the 49ers season.
That's only 8 games.
Season. I will boycott half of the 49ers season. I've said this a million times. I'm really going to do it. If you draft Mac Jones, it's over. And I have this really, really strange feeling that this might happen because Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are so obsessed with veteran quarterbacks that are just good at running a system. Yeah, it worked out with Matt Ryan, but then they brought in Brian Hoyer, CJ Beathard, and then they brought in Jimmy Garoppolo to try to fit into that system. And every year it just hasn't worked out. They didn't even give Kaepernick a single chance or a shot at trying out, for the roster. And just I have a feeling that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are just afraid of young mobile quarterbacks. But in my opinion, if they're always running these quick decision plays, they're benefiting off the run. A mobile quarterback is going to transform that offense. And you have a lot of quick decision playmakers coming out of this draft with really, really good arm. Like, I have a whole list right here, but I'm just going to start off with, the very beginning. So at the very, the number one prospect after Trevor Lawrence, I believe, is Zach Wilson. And man, I wasn't really sold into this guy at first, but everybody said he was going to be the number 2 pick, or all the mock drafts are saying that he will be the second overall pick. I was really, I was thinking that everybody's out of their minds because he came from BYU, which is not a very, well-known conference, and it's not from a well-known conference. And Zach Wilson has only played one regular season healthy. In all his other seasons, he's had shoulder injuries, and also he hasn't played too well. So he doesn't really have too much experience under his belt against good teams. So why is he projected a second overall pick? And then I saw his pro day today, and I was like, man, this guy has the biggest arm, one of the best arms in the NFL, in my opinion, and also out of every college prospect quarterback, including Trevor Lawrence. If he's able to throw these off-balance, one-handed, bombs, 60-yard bombs without planting his feet, imagine how deep he can throw if he actually has proper form and manages, to have a smooth pocket and just make those deep bombs without even trying, without any effort. This guy, he can throw on the run, he can throw off balance, and this is the exact replica of Patrick Mahomes. This is literally the guy that the Kansas City Chiefs were looking for with Patrick Mahomes. And now look at what the Kansas City offense can do now. They can throw deep. They can make short, quick, really, fast cannon zip passes. And the 49ers, they almost run the exact type of offense, but under the play action instead. So if Zach Wilson is able to fall down to the third overall pick, this is a must for the 49ers. You have to get him. It doesn't really matter. My only issue with Zach Wilson is, his deep game. He doesn't really have a lot of experience in that, but he does, thrive in these short, quick release, quick decision-making type of passes that Kyle Shanahan loves to run. It is definitely going to transform the 49ers offense, and that's what we need. But my only concern is that, Zach Wilson has gone through a couple of shoulder surgeries, and this is a very huge, major issue in the NFL. Chad Pennington went through the same thing and had to retire because he couldn't stop avoiding shoulder injuries. And another thing is that Jimmy Garoppolo, who is our supposed franchise quarterback, he can't stop getting hurt. So we need a healthy quarterback if we're going to sacrifice all these picks to get Zach Wilson 3rd overall. Now, I'm going to move on to any alternatives because the Jets, after what they saw in today's pro day, I'm pretty confident in Robert Saleh making the right decisions. And if he's going to, if you're telling me that Robert Saleh is willing to give up Sam Darnold for Zach Wilson to draft him 2nd overall, I'm pretty sure he's actually willing to do it. So what is the backup plan for the 49ers if Zach Wilson actually ends up with the Jets? It's going to be Trey Lance. He's still 3rd. He is still one of the best quarterbacks, left in the draft. And if they don't get Zach Wilson, they got to draft Trey Lance 3rd overall over Justin Fields, Mac Jones. Trey Lance, clear, in my opinion, I haven't seen Justin Fields pro day, but watching other games, Trey Lance has the biggest arm, and if he has to make quick throws, I think Trey Lance, if he has the proper training, it's proper, development, he's definitely going to make it happen. So I'm really excited because the 3rd pick opens up so many options for us. And, I think this is going to be a franchise changing type of decision, because if we draft Zach Wilson, this is going to be big. If Zach Wilson is our starting quarterback and he's healthy, our offense is loaded, our defense is loaded, and you're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. I have a lot to say about him, but should I save it for the next segment? I guess I'm just gonna say it right now. We have so much cap space if we take a quarterback 3rd overall. Jimmy G, he has that player option. I think next year, if we let him go, we save up so much money in our cap space, and we can add so much more depth. But we don't need depth right now because our roster is so loaded, especially on offense. Yeah, we could probably add some more offensive linemen, but with our additions in our free agency this year, that's already, that problem's already solved. What's only left is probably, adding a really good veteran secondary player, player for the secondary, a corner or a safety. Spending all that money to that one big veteran player is probably more than enough to guarantee a 49ers Super Bowl run within the next within the next season to within the next 3 seasons from here.
I kind of would agree with you in the next 3 seasons, like more towards like season number 3, they would get that playoff push because Tampa Bay would start to dismantle itself because of salary cap issues, old players, and you could see the 49ers on the rise. But let me read some of our wonderful comments from our viewers. For Callan, he's keeping a close eye on you, Isaiah. Better watch what you say. James Gonzalez is going to have to, 49ers keeping Jimmy G. Casey King says it's a good move, but your Niners, Isaiah, let's not get to a dynasty at this point in time. They still have to prove themselves out on the field. Isaiah, who would the 49ers draft? Zach Wilson? That seems like, you already answered that question there. Curious, yes, go.
If Zach Wilson is not available and he's off the board, right? Honestly, I would probably take my chances with Trey Lance and just keep Jimmy Garoppolo for another season, because I don't think Trey Lance, you can put him in right away and he can start for you and have success. No, I think that he needs at least 1 or 2 years of development, and he needs to sit on the bench and learn the system before he can be successful. So John Lynch said today, and I forgot who commented that the 49ers were keeping Jimmy Garoppolo, but he said that they were going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. I had 2 reactions to that. Number one, I don't believe him, because when, general managers, after they make a big trade like the Niners did, and then they say, oh yeah, we're going to keep, Jimmy Garoppolo, or keep that player for another season, it's normally the GM doing like typical GM speak and trying to, save as much trade value as you have for Jimmy Garoppolo, and also have some leverage in trade talks. Because if you say like, oh yeah, we're dumping Jimmy G. We're going to go to the rookie. Jimmy G is going to be gone. We're going to trade him. Then you're going to have no trade value for him, and you're going to have to end up releasing him. So I think that it's just John Lynch doing typical GM speak and just saying like, or just trying to keep Jimmy Garoppolo's trade value up and trying to keep the leverage up for Jimmy Garoppolo. And also the second thing that I got from that statement was, if he's in fact serious about keeping Jimmy G, then we're going to get Trey Lance, because Trey Lance is a guy, like I said, that needs 1 to 2 years of development before he can succeed right away, or he can succeed at the pro level. So if you keep Jimmy G as your bridge quarterback, you have him for next season, you can make a run, make a playoff run with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then you can move on after next season, give Trey Lance the year of development that he needs, and Kyle Shanahan can fix his mechanics, and also he can learn the system. Then I think Trey Lance would be successful in Kyle Shanahan's very complex offense.
I guess you kind of already technically answered the second question of who should be the starting quarterback and all that. And so I'll just go to Furman. Can you just piggyback off of that?
Well, I pretty much explained it when I had my segment. I already said it was going to be Trey Lance, and I have the exact idea of what Isaiah just mentioned, because Jimmy Garoppolo could still be our starter at 2021. So if you sit Trey Lance for at least 1 to 2 years, and he gets that proper development and also learning off of veterans, I think if he gets used to the pro level and you insert him into the game, it's going to be a similar situation like Patrick Mahomes. If you give him time to learn off the bench, off of practice reps, he can definitely transform into a really good quarterback based on his current talent right now.
Yep, and let me continue reading our viewers' comments. Kirsty Wilson said, isn't number 16 retired in San Francisco? Yes, that is correct. And same with James Gonzalez. Numbers 8 and 12 have been retired as well. Every now and then, if a player is very star and stud and the veteran is still alive, sometimes the veteran is gracious enough to allow that number to come out of retirement. But, Zach Wilson is not that legendary quarterback to do it. He's not that swagger of spades to pull off that said number coming forced out of retirement. But, it depends on what the veteran says and if that rookie player can live up to that expectations. Then we have a YouTube from Slasher. WTF has traded the 19th pick, the 51st pick of the 2022 draft, first of the 2023 draft, first of the 2024 draft, to the Falcons for the 4th overall pick. Wow, that is a lot for one pick.
Is that even real? Because I'm trying to search it up right now, and I don't see that anywhere. I think that might be Slasher just throwing up a proposal of what Washington should do. Now that San Francisco has
that's a real WTF, man.
That is a real WTF. Like, I'm like thinking, like, what's WTF about? And as soon as you said the Washington football team, it connected.
I mean, you guys, the Washington football team already had Dwayne Haskins, and it didn't work out. So, they got to figure something else. I don't know. That's a really risky move if that actually happened.
I'm trying to find it somewhere, and it doesn't look like that it's happened. Like, Ian Rappaport hasn't tweeted about it. Schefter hasn't said anything. Pelissero hasn't said anything. So I think that might be just Slasher throwing out a proposal about what he wants the Washington football team to do regarding the NFL draft and the Washington football team's quarterback situation.
I'm just thinking about, like, looking at this trade, if it does happen and the Washington football team loses and keeps getting first-round picks, the Falcons could actually build something pretty nice because of this. And then going with Kirsten.
That's a nice package for for Atlanta. But if I'm Washington, you're going to trade all that for presumably Matt Jones, I'm thinking.
Maybe Justin Fields, depends how.
Maybe Justin Fields. It's very risky. It's really risky to give up all that. Like, you're giving up in his proposal, you're giving up 3 future first-round picks plus your first-round pick from this season. That's 4 first-round picks and the your second-round pick in the upcoming draft. Yeah, that's too much. That's like way too much.
I guess it depends what they need so much more. So it's like you can't be giving away your picks like that.
If you're gonna give up that much, go call up Houston and go do that for Deshaun Watson.
Fair enough. Going back to Kirstie Wilson, BYU has some quarterbacks been famously been put out. 49ers legend Steve Young. Ishmael's, he hopes the Jets take him so Isaiah can have a meltdown on the draft show. Casey King comes back with Mac. If you guys draft Mac Jones, might as well get Josh Rosen too. How about Nick Mullins, Isaiah?
I want to respond to Casey's comment. If we draft Mac Jones, first of all, you will see me completely melt down on the show, and who knows, I might take this jersey off, and you might see a real live jersey burning on the draft show if we draft Mac Jones. Please do not draft Mac Jones. I mean, the guy is a product of the system. You look at every Alabama quarterback, which Alabama quarterback under Nick Saban has turned out to be a good quarterback or even great in the NFL. There hasn't been an A.J. McCarron's a backup. Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, the Dolphins, I don't even know if they're sold on him or not. John Parker Wilson, he's out of the league. There's been other quarterbacks.
Would you count Jalen Hurts? Or is he...
I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts, to be honest. But I wouldn't say that he's primarily, he did go to Alabama, but I would say he's from Oklahoma instead, because that's where.
It's only one season, though.
All right, Jalen Hurts had a bad season last year, so I'm not sold on him either.
Yeah,
this is a really risky move.
There's
by the
only
Eagles.
one season, guys. Give him a chance.
I'm just trying to judge him based on how he throws. His deep ball is not there. I don't know how he can improve on that, to be honest. So all you Eagles fans, hopefully you'll find your quarterback eventually. But
going back to Mac Jones, though, I just think Mac Jones was a product of the Alabama system that had one of the best offensive lines in football. They had one of the best wide receiving core in college football. They had one of the best tight ends in college football. I mean, they had everything that was 5-star rated. So, of course, he would look good at Alabama. That's why I personally do not want Mac Jones. But, knowing this front office and what they've done before in regards to quarterbacks and Kyle Shanahan only liking pocket passing quarterbacks, I wouldn't rule it out.
All right, Isaiah, I'd like to add on to that. So I completely agree because I remember this very clearly on National Championship Day when it was Ohio State versus Alabama. It was 3rd and 7, and I was like, Mac Jones is probably just going to throw a check down to Najee Harris. And he did just that. He threw a check down to Najee Harris, and he broke 10 tackles and gained 30 yards. That's how inflated Mac Jones' stats are, to put it out there for you guys.
Yep. When you have the best stuff in the country, you're going to get those results. And then you go to the worst team in the NFL, your stats are 100 yards passing with you running the ball for 30 yards. And that's your game with maybe 1 touchdown pass and 2 interceptions. That probably sums up a rookie number, give or take. They could have, phenomenal numbers like Joe Burrow. But, most of the time, that's never the case for a rookie quarterback if they're on a bad team. But let's, go on to our third topic for tonight, gentlemen. Going back to the Dolphins, they moved up from the 12th to the 6th spot with the Eagles. And is this the beginning of the end for Tua? And they're looking for the replacement? Or they're going to ride Tua a little bit and get him more of a offensive weapon to help him out? So I'll go to Isaiah. What do you think is going to end up happening with this 6th pick from the Eagles?
I think they're targeting Tua's or getting weapons for Tua, because when I look at this trade, it just doesn't make sense if they were targeting a replacement for Tua for them to trade out of number 3, then go to 12, and then from 12 go to 6. If you're going to take a quarterback, you take a quarterback at number 3. You don't trade down to 12 and then trade down or trade back up to 6 to get a quarterback. The best quarterbacks aren't going to be there at number 6, because right now I think Trevor Lawrence goes number 1 to Jacksonville. I think you will see Zach Wilson. Hopefully not. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping they take that Oregon offensive lineman. But Zach Wilson, I think, will go to the Jets at 2. 49ers will take a quarterback for sure. And I think Atlanta will take a quarterback as well, because you need a guy that will be a successor to Matt Ryan. So I think the top 4 picks, 1, 2, 3, 4, will all be quarterbacks. So by the time the Dolphins pick, they're probably going to be picking, Mac Jones. That's the guy that they're going to be picking. And I just don't see Mac Jones as much of an upgrade from Tua Tagovailoa. So I don't think that the Dolphins are going quarterback at that pick. I think they're just doing that because I think the Bengals right now are definitely going to go offensive lineman. I think they're going to go with that Oregon offensive lineman, Penei Sewell. And then the Dolphins would have their pick of Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith, and with them being able to pick whoever they wanted between those 2 elite wide receivers, they get to accumulate more draft picks as well. So it makes a lot of sense for them to go and get a Devontae Smith or go and get Jamar Chase from LSU, and you also collect more picks. So I think they're definitely getting more weapons for Tua, and they're going to ride Tua out for another year, because next year's quarterback class, I know a lot of people are really down on that quarterback class, but next year's quarterback class they could be pretty loaded as well. You got Keaton Slovis from USC. You got Sam Howell from North Carolina. JT Daniels from Georgia. He looked really good at Georgia. And you have other quarterbacks as well that are going to be coming out. So I think the Dolphins, they can go ride out Tua this season. They have a talented team for them to do so. And then if you definitely need to take a quarterback, you can go take a quarterback next season, because I think that next year's quarterback will be as stacked as this upcoming quarterback draft class.
And Furman, what about you? What do you think the Dolphins are doing with this pick? Are they going to try to replace Tua or get Tua some weapons, or something else that we have not talked about already?
I think it all just depends on who gets picked first in the top 5 picks of the draft, because obviously Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields are most likely going to be taken away from the top 3 picks. But if Trey Lance, if he possibly falls down the draft, I think that's definitely something that the Dolphins will eye on. If they could possibly take Trey Lance and use that as a replacement for Tua, I think that is possibly what they're thinking about. But at the same time, I think they're just trying to run into a situation where if we can give Tua a second chance, we can still do it if we're at the 6th pick. So in that case, I'm pretty sure they're probably going to draft either one of these top wideouts in the NFL draft, like Jamar Chase. I'm trying to think of another one, maybe Kyle Pitts from Florida, because apparently, Florida's receivers made Kyle Trask look good. I'll leave it to that. But the Dolphins can definitely take Kyle Pitts as an option to help Tua as well. And yeah, I'm pretty sure the Bengals and Panthers might take a quarterback like Mac Jones, but the Bengals are for sure they have to get an offensive line. Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, I think those are the top offensive linemen. I'm pretty sure the Bengals are locked in on that. And as for Tua, I think Tua definitely, he was put under a lot of pressure last year, but Miami still went 10-6 and barely missed the playoffs. So Tua deserves a second chance. And I think what Isaiah said, if Tua doesn't get his redemption year, if he doesn't show any promise, there's a lot of options out there. I mean, you've got a lot of great backup quarterbacks in the NFL right now that you could go after. I mean, there's Marcus Mariota right now. There's Sam Darnold, Mitchell Trubisky. He's not great, but he can still be developed because he's young. Jameis Winston, if the Saints, they're not going to extend him. There's a lot of options, including the next year's draft class. So I think the Dolphins are in a really good position in the 6th pick, but I do think they're going to get a wideout to help out Tua for now.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, the Dolphins are probably going to give Tua a second chance opportunity. Last year, they couldn't make up their mind of who they want to start at quarterback. One week it was Tua, the next week it was Fitzpatrick. And it was just like, if you want to give your quarterback an opportunity to get a rhythm, you got to let him, play a string of like 3 or 4 games to build up that confidence. As soon as he has a bad game, it's like you're putting the other quarterback in. It's like, what? How'd you get up to that idea? Like, why? But I'm going to have to agree with you guys. I think the Dolphins are probably going to get weapons because, like, dropping back to 12, moving back up to 6, it's like the reason why you move back up to 6 is like you still want an elite offensive weapon to help out your quarterback, giving him like a wide receiver talent. And you can see if you sit back in 12, you're going to miss out some of those key assets that some of those other teams would take. So I can see why the Dolphins ended up moving back up for sure. But to go into some of our lovely viewer comments is Casey Kings thinks that the Dolphins are going to stick with Tua for another year and get him some weapons. Same with Kirsty Wilson. Ishmael has a question for us. It says, do y'all think the Bengals should pass up on the top O-line in the draft or for either Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase?
I like to answer that really quickly. No, because Joe Burrow and last year's Bengals offense synchronized really well. And you guys, they don't need a different wideout. If John Ross and AJ Green are not going to make their starting roster, that's how loaded their offense is. I do think, out of the list that you gave us, I don't think those are any good options for the Bengals. The best case for the Bengals is to draft Kyle Pitts if not an offensive lineman, because CJ Uzomah, I think he was out for the year with a torn Achilles, but other than that, they got Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins right now on, working on the wideouts. Their slots are, it's definitely gonna, there's gonna be some sort of upgrade. And Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon, be under center is a really deadly duel. And their offense, I think, the only thing that's missing is to just protect Joe Burrow. So they really need an offensive line, and I'm pretty sure that's the direction they're headed into this draft in the 5th pick.
And is there anything else you would like to add to it before I continue reading comments?
Yeah, I want to say that I know there's a report that just came out that Joe Burrow's reportedly pushing the Bengals for Jamar Chase out of LSU, but I think the Bengals, they shouldn't listen to Joe Burrow and they should just go get the offensive lineman because, like Furman said, the Bengals offensive line last year, they were horrendous, and that's what led to Joe Burrow getting hurt. And if you want Joe Burrow to continue being your franchise quarterback and not consistently getting hurt, you got to get an offensive line to protect Joe Burrow. So that's what I think the Bengals should do. I think if they go get a wide receiver, I think it'll be a big mistake since, you're upgrading your wide receiving corps, but the offensive lines, you still won't be able to give Joe Burrow time to throw the football, and he will be constantly getting hit.
All right. Now we look at some of the QBs in the next draft class. Like we all said earlier, we have a bunch of names. I'm not going to read the list up, but I'll leave it up there for a couple moments. But as you can see, the list is big and strong and a lot of potentials, but we'll see how a lot of those quarterbacks unfold in the college season. I'm going to start riding my guy for Bo Nix from Auburn. I hope he turns the tide, leads Auburn to a national championship game, puts Alabama in the backseat, but he has a long way to go before that can happen. But fingers crossed, and hope he does well this coming up season for Auburn. Isaiah.
I want to say something before we move off this comment. First of all, I think Keaton Slovis will be the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft. You guys know how high I am on him. I like his arm talent a lot. He's got pretty good mobility, athleticism. He's just got leadership skills that you can't teach. So I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in this draft class. But the guy that I'm really intrigued by is I would say it's Emory Jones from Florida, because you saw what Dan Mullen can do with quarterbacks. He's tutored Dak Prescott. He's had Kyle Trask. He's had other great quarterbacks in his system. And Emory Jones hasn't been able to show the world what he can bring to the Florida Gators. You know, he's a guy that is a great runner. When he was first recruited by Florida, he was a guy that had a great arm. So I think Florida is going to unleash Emory Jones this season, and I can't wait to see what he does and see how he is able to, transform from a guy that was seldomly used to a guy that is going to be the starter for Florida. And I want to see that how he could transform into an NFL level quarterback if he does, because I think that he could potentially be Lamar Jackson, but with a better arm.
All righty, as I continue, we got Tua with Devontae Smith in Miami would be nasty from Ishmael. From MI6, which is Shri, Tua's overrated. And then John Ross is with the Giants. And then we have the Bengals need offensive line. But knowing them over the years, they'll probably go up and screw it up. Go Higgins.
They'll take a wide receiver. Just watch.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our fourth and final topic for the NFL for tonight. We have Richard Sherman and where he could end up. But the real question is, does he go back to Seattle? Isaiah, does Richard Sherman, go back to Seattle?
I would like to see it because I want to see the Niners-Seahawks rivalry renewed again and make it like so intense like it was back in the early 2010s from 2011 to 2015. I want to see that type of Niners-Seahawks rivalry. But I don't know if it makes sense for the Seahawks. I really don't, because the Seahawks, yes, they need some corners, but if you look at their defense, Richard Sherman himself won't really elevate the Seattle Seahawks defense. The Seattle Seahawks defense, they've been crumbling over the past 3-4 seasons. They just released Jaron Reed. KJ Wright is a free agent. They have other holes on that defense, and their pass rush consistently the last couple of seasons have been one of the worst in the NFL when it comes to rushing the quarterback. And if you can't rush the quarterback, it doesn't matter how great your secondary is. When a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes or Kyler Murray or all these great quarterbacks, they're gonna have time, all the time in the world to stand back in the pocket and just take their time and throw the football. Your secondary is going to constantly be killed. So I don't exactly like it for Seattle, just because I don't think Richard Sherman by himself will solve all their problems on that defense.
And Furman, what about you? What do you think with Richard Sherman? Does Seattle bring him back, or does he go somewhere else?
If he goes to Seattle, I think that's the perfect place for him to retire, because he's 32 right now, and he's never been known as a fast corner. I think he's always been a position player. He's always, he's grasped the concepts really well out on the field, but he's less of a athletic person compared to all these other young players out in the NFL right now. So I think he's at his career's end, in my opinion, and Seattle's a place where he peaked, and that's where he started his huge runs with the LOB. So Seattle's the perfect place for him right now to just call it quits. But if he's actually going to play for Seattle, I think that's not a good decision at all. Seattle does not have the perfect roster right now. They also have a lot of tensions. Jaron Reed got released. Russell Wilson, you don't know his future yet. He's obviously probably going to stay with Seattle, but, like I said, locker rooms issues and everything, we don't know what's going to go on in the future with Seattle. So defensively, they're also not very good. They got a lot of holes to fill. So if Richard Sherman wants to play at least a couple more years, I think the place to start for him right now is, like I said before in the last episode, the Oakland Raiders. If he goes to the Las Vegas Raiders, if he goes to the Las Vegas Raiders, he can definitely coach up and teach those young veterans those young players in the secondaries, how to be more disciplined and play better coverage. That's all. They have so many issues. The Raiders, they have lack of discipline, and their secondary is like a mess, regardless of how much talent they have. But I think Richard Sherman can definitely fix that with his experience and kind of, amp up that secondary and turn the Raiders into a better, better contender, because Raiders do have a lot of talent right now, and I think Richard Sherman's going to make them even better.
Gotcha. I kind of feel the same way. It's like he could go back home, retire as a Seattle Seahawk, which is like his career has been, fairly respectable. You wouldn't hate against it. He's done many I shouldn't say crazy things, miraculous things over the years, and, been a part of great franchises over the years. So he's definitely at one point going to become a Hall of Famer. It's going to, the rest is history at that point. But let me go to our fantastic fans tonight. Kirsty Wilson doesn't think Richard Sherman goes back to Seattle, but she can't think of anywhere else where he can go. It's a fair point. I can't think of anything else either. Isaiah.
I think that he should go to Dallas because Dan Quinn, the Cowboys' new defensive coordinator, is going to be running that Seahawks-style defense, so it makes a lot of sense for Richard Sherman. Plus, I think Dallas is a defense away from winning the Super Bowl, so that's how talented they are. So they need to improve that defense. I don't know why they let go of Aldon Smith. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but Richard Sherman would really help that secondary, and he would be able to mentor a lot of the young secondary pieces that the Cowboys have right now. And another place I think that Richard Sherman should go is, I think he should go to Kansas City, because Kansas City, they need to improve that secondary. You saw what happened in the Super Bowl where Brady was just, slicing and dicing that Kansas City secondary. Their defense, they're not good. I've been saying that for a couple of years now. Their defense is not good. They need to improve that defense. And Richard Sherman, if he is willing to take a pay cut, he would definitely help the Kansas City Chiefs secondary.
All right, as I continue, go back into your Dallas comment. Kirsty Wilson said she will go crazy if Sherman goes to Dallas because she just doesn't think that will happen because he will want tons of money. Very possible. But if it's a chance to win another Super Bowl, I think he may take a little bit less, but it depends on what he truly desires at that point. Going back to our comments, the relationship between Sherman and the Seattle Seahawks is still strained, and he doesn't think that Richard Sherman will return. Callan, on the other hand, thinks Frank Gore goes back to the 49ers, Richard Sherman goes back to the Seattle Seahawks. He's loving it. And then we have, I think this is probably Steven, don't try him with a sorry wide receiver like Crabtree. When we have Casey King, he thought it would be the Raiders, but he doesn't know where he will end up. And Sammy Sharp, he says, Sherman to Tampa, get the ring with Tom. I could see that as well.
I think, Trevor, hold on. I think that Sherman to Tampa, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, on paper, but it doesn't make a lot of sense on the field because they already have Carlton Davis. They already have Sean Murphy Bunting. I don't know if Sherman would be willing to only slot in as the nickel corner or just slot in as a backup cornerback.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he would want to take a backup role, but like I said, if he wants another Super Bowl, it's probably Tampa's technically the destination to go at this point because it's still stacked, it's still loaded. It has in reality a chance to repeat if everything goes accordingly and injuries don't go against them. But now, gentlemen, let's move on to our NBA. Before we get to the blockbusters with the whole trade deadline and all that fun stuff, let's go to the Lakers because I know that's going to be a nice brief segment, and then we can get into the meat and potatoes of, according to the script, Isaiah, you left it as the MLB trade deadline. So I don't know what happened as you were writing the script. I'm calling you out on it, and I'm just going to call it the MLB trade deadline for the rest of the night. So that is a blessing to your own self because I'm just following the script, ladies and gentlemen. So going with the Los Angeles Lakers, they're on their fourth consecutive loss. They lost to the 76ers. Isaiah, what is happening to your Lakers? Will they bounce back, or is it just they're just missing their two favorite star players?
Well, first of all, the Lakers suck. Let me say this. The Lakers are hot garbage right now. Anybody not named LeBron James, anybody not named Anthony Davis, anybody not named Montrezl Harrell, anybody not named Dennis Schroeder, and anybody not named Kyle Kuzma, they can all go. They can all go and get released. All of those guys should have been either traded or cut yesterday at the trade deadline. That's how pathetic those pieces are. I mean, you look at Wesley Matthews. This guy's one of the most inconsistent players that I've ever seen play in my life. I guarantee you if the Lakers traded him to Safeway for the Safeway bag boy, I think the Safeway bag boy might be more useful than Wesley Matthews. That's how useless he is. It's just the reason why the Lakers suck right now is not because LeBron, yes, I mean, it is because LeBron and AD are missing, but it's also because they have one of the worst perimeter defenses in the entire NBA, and this has been a problem even with LeBron and Anthony Davis. That's why I've been growing very wary that the Lakers are even going to win a championship. Because yes, if LeBron and AD comes back, yes, you're going to make it to at least the Western Conference Finals. But if you don't improve your perimeter defense and you keep letting the opposing team's backcourt, have monster nights like Danny Green did last night, James Harden's going to go off. Kevin Durant's going to go off. Kyrie Irving is going to cook your team. The Lakers perimeter defense, they suck on the perimeter defense. You look at what happened yesterday. The reason why the Lakers lost that game to the Philadelphia 76ers, I know they only lost by 8, but the score it doesn't tell the whole story. The Lakers were tied at halftime, but they came out flat defensively in that third quarter. I believe they were outscored by 19 points by the Philadelphia 76ers in that third quarter, and it was because of that perimeter defense. The Philadelphia 76ers, folks, on 9 possessions at one point in that third quarter, had 9 straight open looks at threes. They made 6 out of 9, but they still had 9 open looks at threes. If you give Brooklyn that much open looks at threes, they're going to kill us. You give James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant open looks time and time again, they're going to absolutely murder us from downtown. The Lakers, Rob Pelinka, we're going to get into the trade deadline later on, but Rob Pelinka should have added some perimeter defenders to help the Lakers out on that end. He didn't do that, and it's what's going to end up costing the Lakers if they don't win this season. It's not because they don't have it's not because they can't score. It's because they can't defend. And right now, it looks like losing Avery Bradley was a major loss for the Los Angeles Lakers. Avery Bradley and Danny Green, a guy that, the Laker fans hated when he was in LA because he couldn't knock down a 3 to save his life. He's looking so much useful now. If he were on the Lakers, because he would have definitely helped the Lakers on that perimeter defensive side of the ball.
And Furman, what about you? Are the Lakers running into trouble with this 4th consecutive loss? And is it just injuries and they'll bounce back after AD and LeBron return?
I think the majority of it is just injuries. Without LeBron or AD, obviously, where do you look after? Who do you look after with this current team, just this current roster right now? You have Dennis Schroeder. He's okay. Marc Gasol, he got overpaid $14 million a year to just not do anything. Kyle Kuzma, he's definitely a role player, but not your potential star player or your primary ball handler. So, the Lakers have a lot to work with without LeBron or AD, and it's going to be a huge issue for them moving forward. LeBron and AD have to be healthy, and I've been saying this for a very, very long time. People ridiculed me for saying that the Lakers season is over without AD, and look how their season's turning out right now. And this is definitely something that I have foreshadowed for a long time, because AD is not 100% healthy superstar. he is like Joel Embiid. He's not going to last long every season. He always somehow finds a way to get hurt. And, you can pay a superstar all they want to play their best games, but if they're not going to be healthy for 82 games, if they're not going to be healthy for an entire season, especially moving into the postseason, you're not going to build a championship team. It's going to be, it's going to be difficult. And LeBron's getting older now. He's, I think, 37 or something now. So it's definitely extremely difficult for the Lakers to, continue their momentum coming off of a championship season. So, and I think the secondary issue is, yes, what Isaiah said. You have to address your defense, and they play too much zone defense, and that's not going to work against a lot of perimeter shooting teams like the Suns, the Sixers, the Utah Jazz, even a team like the Toronto Raptors right now. The Lakers have to play better disciplined perimeter defense against these guys, or else they're going to have a lot of tough series, even with LeBron and AD healthy, because they're slowing down. They're not a young team. They're aging. And all their guys are not, without LeBron and AD, you can't have too many guys to rely on with the Lakers right now. So my biggest issue was especially coming from yesterday. You allowed Danny Green to score like 8 threes against you, when Danny Green could not even hit more than a single three a game with the Lakers. That tells you that something is definitely wrong with your defense. If you let Danny Green get hot, every other bench or role player that you leave open are going to do the same thing to you if you keep, playing undisciplined defense in the perimeter. So there's a lot of better. I feel like there's a lot of teams in the West right now that are much, much better than the Lakers. And, especially after the trade deadline, which is something that, we're going to discuss, this is going to be another crazy, crazy year for a lot of other teams in the Western Conference to emerge. And, that's, are we talking about this right now? Are we into the trade deadline, or is that part of the next segment?
That's part of the next segment. So,
all right. So I'll leave it to this right now, but I'll definitely get into it in the next segment.
All righty. So let me read through some of our comments. We have Kirsty Wilson going with your comment that you made earlier about the aging team for the Lakers. LeBron's 36. Casey King says the Lakers are definitely missing LeBron and AD, but they're going to need to be healthy in the postseason so they can make that postseason run. But he does think that it would help if they added a player at the player deadline. I think that would have been helpful to sort of like almost like another field general out on the court, getting things organized, because LeBron James is technically literally a field general for the Lakers, moving the ball up and down the court, getting the ball moved around. And Anthony Davis is that rebound player. Now you're missing those two key pieces. Your organization's kind of in ruins. And Isaiah, I see you made a comment yourself. The Lakers' perimeter D is trash, and that you can guarantee that the MI6 starting five could cook the Lakers. Isaiah, we are not athletic to do that. We are has-been players. We've been there, done that, and we're not the same anymore. We are retired veterans.
Well, Trevor, we don't even need to do anything. They're going to give us open looks after open looks after open looks. So all we just do there is stand in the corner, get the ball, and shoot the three. And if you knock it down, you'll get buckets.
But that's our shooting percentage is probably 13% or 10% from the three-point arc. It's not pretty. But now, Isaiah, let's go in to the MLB trade, aka the NBA deadline, NBA trade deadline, because you screwed up the script, and now everyone has to pay the consequences for your mishap. But let's go into the NBA trade. So, who are the winners and losers of the NBA trade deadline, Isaiah?
All right, I'm going to start with the positives before
Here's the 5-paragraph essay, everybody. All right, let's get the popcorn, get your shades ready. It's going to be one of the long segments.
Yes. Bring the shades out, Callan, if you're watching. You too, Trevor, bring the shades out. Bring the Captain Kirk hat on. Pop some popcorn if you guys have some right now. Cookies if you guys got some, bring it out. Bring some juice out and bring some, beer out if you guys want, because this is going to be a long segment.
I'm just gonna put the camera on you so you can just go off on it. All right?
Yeah. You should do that. All right. So let's start with the winners. I think the Chicago Bulls were one of the big winners of the trade deadline yesterday. They made the surprise move of the day when they landed Nikola Vucevic from Orlando, and also they got Al-Farouq Aminu. So now you could put those two guys around Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, and also the rest of the core players that Chicago has. And I know that trade cost a lot for the Bulls. It cost them Wendell Carter Jr. and a couple of protected first-round picks. But still, it's worth it because Chicago has the core right now in place to win now. And in the East, with how weak that Eastern Conference is, Chicago right now, I believe they're 9th or 10th in the Eastern Conference. But I think with this move and with Zach LaVine and Vucevic, and they also added Daniel Tice and Troy Brown for depth as well in a deal with Boston and Washington, the Bulls are coming. They got deeper, and I expect the Chicago Bulls to be a very, very tough out come playoff time for one of the top 5 or 4 seeds in the Eastern Conference. The Bulls are one of my winners. Another winner that I had is definitely the Miami Heat. You know, the Miami Heat, they got off to a really slow start this season. I think we had a topic on one of our No BS episodes that the Miami Heat, are they even going to make the playoffs? And the Miami Heat, they have bounced back very nicely. And now the Miami Heat, they got Victor Oladipo. They have added him to Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic and Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. But most importantly, they didn't have to give up either of Hero and Duncan Robinson in trades. And I think those are huge because Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero has shown that when they are red hot, they are like electric players. So if you had to give up one of them, you could only give them up for not an Oladipo, but a Kyle Lowry or someone big. But to be able to keep both of them and to get Victor Oladipo, and you're probably going to get LaMarcus Aldridge from the buyout market, that is absolutely huge for the Miami Heat. And my last winner, it's got to be the Denver Nuggets. You know, the Denver Nuggets added Aaron Gordon. They also added JaVale McGee. It gives Denver more punch in the paint. And, Denver now can throw a lot of big bodies at the Lakers. I know they don't have that much perimeter shooting, but when you have all those bodies with Gordon, with Jokic, with Michael Porter Jr., with JaVale McGee, it's going to be a very tough series upcoming if the Denver Nuggets were to meet the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference playoffs. So I expect, I have the Nuggets, the Bulls, and the Miami Heat as my 3 biggest winners. And now to the best part, folks, the losers segment of the trade deadline. First loser, the Cleveland Cavaliers. You have Andre Drummond, who is currently 27 years old, and he is one of the best centers in the NBA. I know the center position has been downgraded the last few years, but still, Andre Drummond's 27. He's averaging 17.5 points per game, shooting 47.4% from the field and 13.5 rebounds per game. He's an elite rebounder. He's an elite defender in the paint. He's an elite post scorer as well. He's an elite basketball player, and you couldn't even get a second round pick for Andre Drummond. What are you even doing, Kobe Altman? How can you not even get, forget the Lakers, forget the Celtics, forget any of those contending teams. It just boggles my mind that not even the Knicks, the Hornets, or any one of these teams that are on the cusp of making the playoffs in the weak Eastern Conference would not trade a second-round pick. That's it, a second-round pick for Andre Drummond. It makes no sense at all. I just think that Cleveland wasn't trying that hard to trade Andre Drummond. I think that Cleveland, I think Andre Drummond's agent wanted a buyout, so they pretty much just gave Andre Drummond what they want, and I think that was absolutely foolish of the Cleveland Cavaliers. My second loser that I have is the Golden State Warriors, because the Golden State Warriors, like I said yesterday on Wild Sports Talk, they have 2 picks this upcoming season or upcoming draft. You got the Minnesota Timberwolves pick, which is top 3 protected, which means if the Timberwolves do not get a pick that is in the top 3, that pick would go to the Warriors. So the Warriors could get a pick that is either number 4 all the way to number 13, and they have their own draft pick. So you could have traded your own first-round pick to like an Orlando and gotten Aaron Gordon or gotten a player that is controllable past this season, which you could help you win not only for this season, but you could win next season as well. So I don't know why the Warriors did not make a move or add any players in the trade deadline. They need a lot of help now to make the playoffs in the West, because the West is so loaded and the Warriors just aren't that talented of a team. But the Warriors, they should have made a move. I don't know why they did it. And ladies and gentlemen, my biggest loser of the trade deadline, Trevor, I think you might want to put that 3-way screen on so you guys can get that reaction from everybody. But my biggest loser from this NBA trade deadline, believe it or not, is the Los Angeles Lakers. And the reason why I say that is because the Lakers had 3 needs entering this trade deadline. They needed a player to help keep this team afloat when LeBron James and Anthony Davis are coming back from their injuries. They didn't get that. They needed a guy that could be or help their perimeter defense. They didn't get that, and you saw against Philly how garbage their perimeter defense is. Heck, I wouldn't be shocked if the Cleveland Cavaliers, who will play the Lakers tonight, absolutely go ballistic from 3 and beat the Lakers, because that's how pathetic the Lakers' perimeter defense is. Third, the Lakers needed an upgrade at center, and right now I know Andre Drummond is out on the buyout market, but it's not a guarantee that you will get Andre Drummond. So if you miss out on Andre Drummond, you're most likely going to miss out on LaMarcus Aldridge. You didn't address any of your needs. And let me say this. Rob Pelinka might be the biggest idiot on the planet. This guy had a chance to go get Kyle Lowry, who would have been the guy that would have stabilized the Lakers as LeBron and AD nursed their injuries. He had a chance to go get Kyle Lowry if he had put in Talen Horton-Tucker in a package for Kyle Lowry that would have included Dennis Schroeder, it would have included KCP, and it would have included Talen Horton-Tucker. But for some damn reason, Rob Pelinka decided not to put in Talen Horton-Tucker. That's it. The impediment to the deal was Talen Horton-Tucker, and the Lakers decided, no, we got to keep Talen Horton-Tucker because he's the future of our franchise. First of all, I don't know why Laker fans and Lakers execs are so high on Talen Horton-Tucker. I don't understand why. Talen Horton-Tucker, when you look at his stats, he's averaging 8 points a game, 3 rebounds a night, and he's only playing 15 minutes a game. The guy is a bench warmer. I don't understand why everybody is so high on the kid. Like the kid, I'm not saying he's a scrub. He can play a bit, but the kid is an end of bench type of player. He's the guy that comes in when the Lakers are up 10 or up, or down 10, he comes in at that time. He's not even the backup point guard. Right now, it's Caruso that's the backup point guard. He's the 3rd string point guard, and you don't want to include him in a package for Kyle Lowry, who's a great scorer, who's a good 3-point shooter. He's a good passer. He's a guy that can stabilize the team right now. He's a 6-time All-Star. He's a champion. Are you serious, Rob Pelinka? Like, what kind of weed have you been smoking the last couple of weeks while you're in LA? It makes no sense whatsoever. The Lakers look at Talen Horton-Tucker like he's the second coming of Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul. But they look at him like he's the second coming of MJ, Kobe, or even, LeBron James. It makes no sense when he's not even he's not even close to that level. So it's just so ridiculous that you don't even include Talen Horton-Tucker for Kyle Lowry in a trade. It makes no sense whatsoever. The Lakers didn't address any of their needs yesterday, and this is on Rob Pelinka. and the Lakers front office. If they don't win the championship, it's because you did not include Talen Horton-Tucker for Kyle Lowry. I guarantee you Kyle Lowry would have been the missing piece to a championship, and he would have stabilized the team right now and kept you from potentially falling to the 6th or the 7th seed and a matchup against the Clippers in the first round, which you do not want to face the Clippers in the first round. So the Lakers, for me, they're my biggest loser.
All right, Furman, what is your winners and losers?
So for my biggest winners, actually, surprisingly, everything that Isaiah mentioned is actually what I was going to say exactly. Is what it is. The winners, I do see one winner from each conference following the trade deadline, and this is pretty crazy because a lot of things that I did not expect to happen actually happened, and I'm going to have to start off with the Denver Nuggets. So the Denver Nuggets, they traded for Aaron Gordon, and they gave away a couple of prospects, a first rounder, including Gary Harris, to the Orlando Magic for Aaron Gordon. But this is actually one of the best trades I've ever, I can ever imagine, because Aaron Gordon the Nuggets were not even a front runner for Aaron Gordon before the trade deadline. I believe it was like the Boston Celtics. So for the Denver Nuggets to actually pull this off, this is actually pretty crazy, because right now they have so many bigs in their starting roster that I think they can literally, at the beginning of the season, before the trade deadline, I said in the Western Conference that the Phoenix Suns will emerge as the top contenders and win the Western Conference. But right now, I have to take it all back. And even as a Lakers fan, I've said their season was in jeopardy. So right now, I think the Denver Nuggets are that team right now to actually win the Western Conference because of how loaded their roster is. They've got Jamal Murray in their starting lineup, Will Barton as their shooting guard, and now Michael Porter Jr., who's almost 7 feet tall, is not even playing power forward. Imagine that. He's playing small forward now. And now you're going to move Aaron Gordon to the power forward. And also, in my opinion, I think this guy deserves to win the MVP. Nikola Jokic, he's been doing so many things that, are impressing everybody right now. He's leading in every stat line for Denver. He's averaging almost a triple-double every night, including just averaging 27 to 28 points a game. Just looking at this lineup, all 5 of these guys in Denver, if you put these guys in another team, they can transform and become a franchise player. So this is really, really crazy. I feel, even though I'm a Lakers fan, to all the other Lakers fans who think that the Lakers have a chance against Denver, I don't think they have a chance against the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers have a chance against Denver anymore, because the Lakers are no longer the bigs. It has become the Denver Nuggets. And, in my opinion, after Michael Porter Jr. wins the NBA championship, if he does with Denver, he's got to leave Denver. And I've said it a couple episodes before. Whoever the Denver's head coach is, you've got to free Michael Porter Jr. This guy's the next KD. His last 3 games that he's been playing, all he does is just shoot the ball. And every time he shoots the ball from the perimeter, he never misses. He could do so much more than that because he's so athletic. He can dunk, he has post moves, he has handles. And if his shot's going in like that, he could become the next MVP if Nikola Jokic is traded or if he's injured. Like, this Denver Nuggets team, I'm telling you, they're really legit. I'm pretty sure this team is going to be the Western Conference champions. So this is my first winner for the NBA trade deadline. The second winner for the NBA trade deadline is what Isaiah exactly just, what he mentioned before, the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference. The fact that they actually got Victor Oladipo in their lineup without trading away any of their point guards or shooting guards is ridiculous, because this is one of the most loaded rosters in the Eastern Conference right now. And, seeing what they've been doing on all the conflicts they had to swap in Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson and Goran Dragic in and out of the starting rotations because they don't know which one of these 4 players are the best ones. And now that they have Victor Oladipo without even getting rid of a single one of their shooting guards or point guards, this is insane because now the Miami Heat literally have 2 starting rosters playing for the Miami Heat every night now. And on top of that, I wouldn't say Miami Heat is the perfect team right now because they still need to go after a big. I think that's their main flaw right now. They have too many guards right now. I think Bam Adebayo is just not tall enough to be a traditional center. Precious is also not tall enough to be a traditional center. So they have to go 100% on LaMarcus Aldridge. He just got bought out by the Spurs. So they need to get LaMarcus Aldridge. So I'm not 100% in on the Heat just yet. But if LaMarcus Aldridge does end up going to the Heat, this is going to completely change their roster. I think the Heat are definitely going to come back to a 2-peat in the Eastern Conference because there is no way you're going to lose. There's no way you're going to lose, in the playoffs with the starting roster. Like, I'd say, you guys have Jimmy Butler. You guys have Duncan Robinson. You got Bam Adebayo, Victor Oladipo, and if LaMarcus Aldridge comes over, that's your starting 5. That is ridiculous. And in the bench, you could put anyone in there. You could put Kendrick Nunn, Dragic, and Tyler Hero as a 6th man. That bench is going to score for you all the time. It's going to look a lot, like the Golden State Warriors in the past when they have a completely stacked starting lineup and also the bench is producing all the points for them. It's a crazy unit. So the thing is, I think the Heat are the winners for the East and the Nuggets are the winners for the West. So that just tells you who I am predicting to make it to the NBA Finals. That is my prediction for the NBA Finals for 2021. Those are the 2 teams that are probably going to make it out. So with that being said, I'm going to go over the losers right now. And I think there's only one loser I can think of. And Isaiah mentioned this as their biggest loser. And I think he's exactly right. I think the Los Angeles Lakers were the biggest losers from this trade deadline because the Los Angeles Lakers, they have tons of talent, but they're not your potential superstar or takeover type of role players. If LeBron and AD are injured, you need that third player, that third high caliber player that's able to lead your team to wins. And they don't have a lot of good veterans right now. But if Kyle Lowry is part of the trade talks, if Victor Oladipo is part of the trade talks, you got to go after them. You have to go after that one perfect player to add to your roster. I've always said that Devin Booker should honestly, come to the Lakers because they really do need that third player. Now that LeBron and AD LeBron's getting older and AD is always getting hurt. So they missed out on a huge opportunity, especially on Victor Oladipo. If somehow Miami Heat's able to get Victor Oladipo without trading away any of their guards, the Lakers should have just put in a deal right away to counter that. They could have just put in, someone like the Lakers' favorite, Alex Caruso, Dennis Schroeder, even KCP. I know Taylor Horton-Tucker is, you mentioned that everybody likes him, but you're not sold into him. I'm pretty sold into Taylor Horton-Tucker. I think he's very good, but at the same time, he could still be part of that package to help the Lakers upgrade to get Victor Oladipo. It just doesn't make sense to me as to how they didn't get this deal off and somehow the Heat were able to get away with such a huge robbery. And I think another issue is Kyle Lowry was always in the trade talks this whole time. No other team pursued him, and they got close. I think Detroit or something was the closest team to acquiring him. How did the Lakers not have any offers, put up for the Toronto Raptors to get Kyle Lowry? Kyle Lowry's a veteran, and he for sure, he's most likely going to be able to bring in that championship mentality. He's got a ring already. So if the Lakers, the Lakers really missed out on key players, especially like Kyle Lowry. They could have just added Kyle Lowry onto their team, and they would have had that role. And I think the Lakers season would have, been a lot better than their current situation right now. So the Lakers are the biggest loss ever since the trade deadline has passed. Another notable mention I would say is the Orlando Magic. And I remember Trevor saying at the beginning of the season they're going to be, the number one team in the Eastern Conference after going 6-2. But I was never sold on.
I never said they were going to go number one. Now, Furman, I never said
they were that. You said they were going to be the biggest. Oh, my bad. They were going to make the playoffs. I didn't.
That's more reasonable because they were an 8th seed last year.
They were 6-2, and that was not the 8th seed. So they went from 6-2 to 16th seed. I don't know how many wins after 6 wins is that. So the Orlando Magic, they're like the Thunder right now. They're in rebuilding mode. They've got rid of Vucevic, which is so surprising. And then Markelle Fultz and Terrence Ross are like the only decent players left on that team. And I was so surprised too because Mo Bamba is still on the Orlando Magic somehow. How did they not get a deal off with Mo Bamba, but somehow Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic gets traded instead? So it's just really confusing. It doesn't make sense. But they're not the biggest losers, in my opinion, because if they're actually rebuilding like the Thunder, this is definitely the road to get started with it.
Yeah, I have no comment for the Orlando Magic. They started out so good, yet they traded away all the good players. And that's the end of the Orlando Magic. The team that I picked 1 year ago. 8th seed in the playoffs. I wasn't hopping on any bandwagons. And now they dismantled themselves. So now I can truly hop on any future bandwagons that they said before they acquire any great assets. You can say I was a true fan before the good times, and the bad times are now here.
The Lakers welcome you, Trevor.
Trevor, face the music. Yes, I shall face the music. More years of losing. Yes, this is going to be great. Can't wait for it. And I know we've been stuck with the MLB segment, the NBA segment, because you screwed up the script. How about the San Antonio Sharks trade now, Isaiah? How about that trade? But, with Ishmael, we have the Lakers didn't want to trade their death, Isaiah. And he said, what? Lakers as the biggest trade for the biggest L? Isaiah.
Listen, I get why you don't want to trade your depth, but listen, all those pieces besides Dennis Schroeder literally suck. I mean, KCP is so inconsistent. Dennis Schroeder, he wants $20 million per year. The Lakers aren't going to pay that. They're going to let him walk at the end of the season so you can get something back in return for him. And I think Kyle Lowry right now is a better player than Dennis Schroeder is, so he would have been an upgrade. And also, Talen Horton-Tucker, like Herman said that he's bought into him, but Talen Horton-Tucker shouldn't be the piece that impedes you from trading for an all-star. It makes no sense whatsoever. You have an opportunity to get an all-star, and you don't trade for it because you want to keep Talen Horton-Tucker, who is only averaging like 8 points a game right now, over getting Kyle Lowry. It just makes no sense whatsoever. That might have been the most dumbest reason why the Lakers did not make a trade. It's because they wanted to keep Talen Horton-Tucker. Talen Horton-Tucker better ball out now and be special to make up for this mistake by Rob Pelinka.
All righty. Now we have with Ishmael again. Furman, the Nuggets don't have the shooting, though. You can't just win by feeding the ball into the paint. That's not how it works in today's NBA.
Well, I like to respond to that. And I basically addressed this very well. The Nuggets do have shooting. They don't shoot in the paint. Nikola Jokic is a shooter. Jamal Murray is also a shooter. Aaron Gordon is also a shooter. Will Barton on the starting lineup is also a shooter. And the next KD of the NBA, who is still in the starting lineup, is also a shooter. All these guys are big and can shoot, and that is the biggest threat to the Lakers right now. Like I said, look at Michael Porter's last 10 games. There hasn't been a single game where he has been absolutely off, and he is just like shooting lights out from the 3-point line every single game. he's not even their number one option, and he's still averaging like 20 points a game just because he's shooting so well from beyond the perimeter. This Denver Nuggets team is not purely, a big man team. These guys are actually, they can make so many plays. They are able to score from anywhere, not just the paint. There could be any day that one of these players will just go off and just shoot like 10 threes a game. Jamal Murray has already done that this season, and so has Aaron Gordon with the Magic. Jokic is also, he's a stretch five. You can't leave any of these guys open, and especially if you're like the Lakers who love leaving perimeter shooters open, they can't. None of these teams can afford that to the Denver Nuggets right now, and especially since they also have good size. Any players that want to drive against these guys, that want to actually, drive, score layups, or finish, that is going to be canceled out. This is not an easy task for the opposing team to play against Denver. So I believe Denver has all their weapons that they need now. It is definitely Denver is going to be the biggest threat to the Western Conference right now.
And then what if the Heat get Drummond? And any thoughts on that?
It's over.
If the Heat get Drummond, that's a great move because, like I said, he gets Aldridge. He's not even a center. He's a power forward that's almost 7 feet. If the Heat also get Drummond, that team is completely stacked, just like the Denver Nuggets. So the Miami Heat, they have all their pieces together for their guards right now, and they just need these 2 free agents, these 2 buyouts ASAP. And if the Lakers somehow do not end up with Drummond in this case, then the Lakers are going to take the biggest L, because giving up Drummond to another team like the Heat, that is going to be crazy, because the Heat are going to be, I think the Heat are definitely, almost certainly going to emerge as the championship contender.
And Isaiah, do you have anything else to add about that?
The Lakers have to get Drummond. He is a must sign now. You have to do everything in your power to get Andre Drummond. You cannot let Brooklyn get him. You cannot let Miami get him. You can't even let Boston get him. You have to get him, because I have no confidence whatsoever in this roster outside of LeBron, AD, Schroeder, and Dennis and Montrezl Harrell to be able to win a championship. I just don't, because I think that Marc Gasol, he's a big liability. I like Marc Gasol. I always wanted Marc Gasol to be a Laker, but he's just a big liability now. And the Lakers need Andre Drummond. They need his rebounding. They need his paint or scoring in the paint. They need what he brings, and he would be, I think, that third star you add to LeBron and Anthony Davis.
All right. Let me finish out some of our comments before we move on to our next segment for tonight in the MLB world. But, Kiersey Wilson, how about them San Antonio Sharks? And then John Alcorn, what about the Los Angeles Flamethrowers? Big trade today, I heard. Big trade, But now let's go on to our MLB segment. Isaiah, I'll let you take it away. Isaiah, you're muted, buddy.
Sorry about that, folks. Well, our MLB segment for tonight is that my Oakland A's, as baseball season is about 1 week away, my Oakland A's yesterday named Chris Bassitt our opening day starter. And the question is did the A's make the right move by naming Chris Bassitt the opening day starter? And I'll say yes, because Chris Bassitt last season was the A's most impressive starting pitcher. He was the A's most consistent starting pitcher. Every time he got out there on that mound, you knew what to expect from Chris Bassitt. He's a guy that he was 5-2 with a 2.29 ERA. He had the 6th lowest ERA in Major League Baseball. He had 55 strikeouts last season. He also, like I said earlier, 5-2, 19th best record out of all the starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. He had a phenomenal season, and he definitely deserved the nod to start opening day for the Oakland Athletics. And the A's, they definitely made the right decision, because right now he is the A's ace right now in the rotation. And I have a big prediction that will probably shock you guys that I really wanted to reveal on our Wild Sports Talk MLB preview show for on Wednesday, next week Wednesday, and that is that I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that Chris Bassitt will win the Cy Young this year. That's how good Chris Bassitt is. I think Chris Bassitt, from what he did last season, he had a tremendous year. He's going to win the Cy Young this season, and I'm looking forward to what he does this upcoming season because I really think he's going to have a great year.
Wow. All righty. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we still got our pigskin pick'ems. We still got spring ball in our hands with Morehead State and Davidson. I don't even know. Isaiah, I beg you to question, why are we still doing pigskin pick'ems when we haven't been really analyzing these games?
Well, because we need to give the FCS some love, man.
I understand, but still, we haven't been keeping up. So it's like, let's just put like a random name generator or like a random number generator, like evens and odds, and that's how we pick our pigskin pick'ems at this point.
No, we pick them by either the mascot or a famous celebrity.
I don't even know.
That's how we pick our pigskin pick'em. But go ahead, Trevor. What's our pigskin pick'em for tonight?
We have Morehead State at Davidson.
All right, I'll go first on this. When I look at this matchup, Morehead State is 1-2. Davidson is 2-1. It's at Davidson. But when you look at Morehead State, I mean, their first game, they got blown out by James Madison 52-0. Then they got blown out by Presbyterian 31-16. And then they finally won a game last week by beating Stetson 31-14. But when you look at Davidson, they have a high-powered offense. Morehead State's defense isn't that good. I expect Davidson to wallop Morehead State tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to go with Davidson to beat Morehead State because of their offense, and Morehead State's defense just isn't good, and also because Stephen Curry went to Davidson. So that's kind of the only reason why I have heard of Davidson. So give me the Davidson, trying to get their mascot. I don't want to make a mistake on the air. Bulldogs.
All right, so how I'm going to solve this, since I haven't studied them and I don't understand what's going on, we have a coin to help me decide this. So heads will be Morehead State, since it's ahead, clever. And in Davidson will be tails. It's a regular U.S. quarter. So I'm going to flip it. It is tails. My pick is Davidson. Tails it is. And they're going to defer on the opening kickoff as well.
Bravo analysis.
Do you have an answer? He's lost for words, ladies and gentlemen.
Furman, you want to throw a coin as well?
Man, Trevor, you stole my idea. I was literally about to do the same thing. But you know what? Screw it. I'll just do the exact same thing you did. I just went downstairs and I just came back up right now and I have a coin with me. So let's do it. So if I pick heads, it's Morehead State. And if it's tails, it's going to be Steph Curry's alma mater, Davidson. All right, here we go. Looks like it's heads, so I'm going to have to go with Morehead State.
Oh,
I have to be the disappointing factor here. Sorry, guys.
Oh, no. It was a 50-50 chance from the start.
That's how we pick our pigskin pick'em now, guys.
I should just do that for next year when I just can't figure out who to pick.
Pick out of a hat.
You can easily do that. But now, gentlemen, let us move on to our Power 5. Well, before we get into the Power 5 segment for tonight, Kirsty Wilson thought we were going to play rock, paper, scissors for it. I could see that for it, but I don't think we'll be able to pull it off like that. But, I like the coin flip idea. I'm going to may use that for a future, pigskin pick'ems at some point in time. But, gentlemen, for tonight's Power 5 segment, in the spirit of baseball, coming back to us shortly in about, a week from now, Isaiah?
Thursday is opening day.
We are going to have top cities that should have an MLB team, that should get an MLB team. So we've been looking at this and understand that there's some cities that could have minor league teams, but we're just looking at the MLB in general. So forget the minor leagues, just the major leagues. That's it. And it can be anywhere in North America. So you can go to Cuba and have a team from Havana if you're really down to that, or Mexico City. But Isaiah, what cities do deserve an MLB team, like should get one that don't have one?
All right, I'm very excited for this Power 5. But before I get into my Power 5, I want to give an honorable mention. So one of the cities that deserves an MLB team is Nashville, because when you look at Nashville, it's a really nice city. I know baseball has been trying to get a team there for a couple of years now. I'm not sure how that project is going, but Nashville, they do deserve an MLB team. Tennessee, they have the Titans, they have the Tennessee Volunteers, but I don't think they have a basketball team. Am I right, Trevor? I don't think they have.
For Tennessee, I don't think Tennessee has a basketball team.
Yeah, I don't think Tennessee has a basketball team.
No, wait. They have Memphis Grizzlies.
They have Memphis.
Oh, right. Yeah, they have the Grizzlies. So they have a NFL team. They have a college football team. They have an NBA team. What's missing is baseball. And the state of Tennessee, they need a baseball team to rally around. So definitely Nashville. I like Nashville as one of my honorable mentions. But going into my Power 5, and just quick disclaimer, folks. There might be some wacky cities on this list. I just want to warn you guys for that. All right, so number 5 on my list, Trevor Furman, believe it or not, I'm gonna go with Charlotte, North Carolina. Because, I like Charlotte. They have the Hornets right now. You got the Carolina Panthers. They need a Major League Baseball team. And I don't think there's any Major League Baseball team, not even in North Carolina, but in South Carolina as well, in that, Carolina region. So they definitely need an MLB team. That would be number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list, I would go with Portland, because Portland is a very nice city as well. Portland with sorry about that. I don't know what commercial just came up, but they have the Blazers, they have the Oregon Ducks. I mean, it's just a nice part to play baseball. And I know it's raining all the time. You can build a dome there, just like the Tampa Bay Rays have, so you don't have rainouts. Or you can build a stadium with a retractable roof. It would just be really nice. And it would be great to add another baseball team to the West Coast with, the Mariners. You have the A's, the Angels, the Dodgers, I'm forgetting one more team, the San Francisco Giants as well. So definitely Portland, Oregon. But number 3 on my list, Trevor, is Alaska. Yes, Juneau, Alaska. I mean, who doesn't want to see a baseball stadium with the backdrop of the stadium being a giant iceberg floating around a lake? I mean, my goodness, that would be like one of the best backdrops of all time. You could have like Callan calling a game like, he hits a high drive deep to center. Oh my God!
Why are we sending Callan to Alaska though?
That ball lands right on the iceberg, and you could have, like they have in San Francisco at Oracle Park. You could have players or fans, riding their canoes or riding their canoes or riding their boats to try to go fetch the baseball in the icy cold lake. So you could have that. That's number 3 on my list. Number 2, I would say, is the Caribbean. The Caribbean. Because the Caribbean is just so nice. You got the beach in the backdrop. Players would love it as well. Fans would definitely come to games. Definitely that's number 2. And number 1, my hometown, Hawaii. Hawaii needs a professional baseball team. They need a professional sports team in general in there because their fan base is so diehard. You got, the beaches, the mountains. I mean, it would just be such a great backdrop to have that stadium, and players would definitely want to play in Hawaii. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Hawaii, play baseball, and then on your free time get to go to the beach and do whatever stuff that the island has to offer?
And Furman, what about you? What is your Power 5 for cities that need an MLB team, that should get an MLB team?
Well, I don't really have any explanations, to be honest. So I'm just going to go over my list like really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, I'm basing this off of seasonal sports, and this city needs it. So Charlotte, that's one of them. North Carolina, they need it. They have college basketball. They've got the Hornets. They've got the Panthers. So they need another team for baseball, and definitely, you got to find that way to make it happen. Number 4 I have on my list, it's going to have to be the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. Wait, do they have one already?
I think Minnesota has a team.
I think they have the Twins.
But Minnesota Twins, I don't know where exactly their stadium is, but I hope it's in Minneapolis because, that I'm pretty sure that's like their most populated area. They got to change that name to Minneapolis. Number 3, I'm going to have to give this to Utah, I think. Utah, they have a lot of fan bases, I'm pretty sure. And Utah has basketball, and they have a pretty big college basketball and college football program. So I think if they put baseball into the mix, it's definitely going to attract a lot of attention there. So that's definitely one of my most preferable spots to really find a stadium or a really good venue in general. Number 2, I'm going to have to give this to Nashville. And number 2, this is the reason why this is number 2 on my list, is because Nashville is just a nice city. I've seen a lot of pictures about it. I haven't really, visited it, but just by looking at the pictures, I really love to visit this place. And I'm surprised that Nashville does not have a stadium for baseball. So number 1 on my list, this is going to be very, very difficult because, I think this place specifically has a lot of fan bases, specifically for basketball. And also, they have a really big football program, not professionally, but, in college. So I think Portland is my number 1 on the list. Portland needs a baseball team immediately and ASAP because, Portland Trailblazers, Oregon Ducks, they've got a lot of, seasonal sports events going on, and they got to have to add baseball into that mix. Baseball has to be part of Oregon because I'm pretty sure they have a lot of fans there that needs to, they got to find themselves a way to entertain themselves in sports throughout the season.
Alrighty. Before I get to mine, let me read some of our faithful viewers' comments on how they have theirs picking. So Kirsty Wilson has Nashville, Portland, Oregon, and John Alcorn jumps in with the Nashville Flamethrowers. Hey, we got a team right there. Her number 3 is Anchorage, number 2, Honolulu, Hawaii, and number 1, San Antonio. We have an honorable mention of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Ooh. And second honorable mention, Las Vegas. And Joseph, he says New Jersey needs an MLB team. I kind of contemplate with John Alcorn earlier before I came on the show. It's like that area is just loaded with so many different sports teams, though New Jersey doesn't have it. And everything is like resides in New York, but MetLife Stadium's in New Jersey. So it's really hard for that relationship to say, oh, New Jersey needs a baseball team, when it's just like you have the Yankees, the Mets, and the Orioles right there. And then not too far south, you have the Phillies. So it's like, does New Jersey really need a team in some of that case? But that can be debated for another time. Then you have, with Shardel Gupta, you have Indianapolis is his 5. Louisville, Kentucky, San Jose. I'm guessing this is Oklahoma City and Portland. Casey King's top 5 is Nashville, Vegas, Portland, Charlotte, Oklahoma City. Honorable mention, Salt Lake City and Indianapolis. Ladies and gentlemen, I will get to my Power 5. Obviously, in the world of MLB, we have one Canadian team. It's the Toronto Blue Jays. So why not get another one? Let's go to Vancouver and get a second team. When you have a team in Seattle, we could get a nice rivalry between Vancouver and Seattle. I would love to see that. Number 4 on this list is Nashville, Tennessee. Got country music, still heart and soul for a lot of music festivals. So like having a baseball team is definitely, pretty good to have. Number 3 is Indianapolis. You have the Pacers, you have the Colts. You need a baseball team, season year round. You can put a dome, and voila, it works. Number 2 is Portland. Like we all said it earlier, Portland is just, Oregon needs that next professional team. They don't have a professional football team, yet the Oregon Ducks do a great job of what they do in the Pac-12. The Portland Trail Blazers have been in the playoffs recently, creating some havoc, but they need another professional sports team in that state, and I think baseball will be a great avenue for them to be a part of. But the one city that we have forgot to talk about that has other professional sports teams is the great state of Louisiana and the city of New Orleans. You have the Saints, you have the Pelicans, and now you have an MLB team in New Orleans. That's just a nice, fun city to be a part of. So I think that would be fantastic to see happen. But before I go into our final thoughts, I will read a couple more comments from our viewers. I believe this is probably John O'Corn. The Vancouver maple syrups. I can get behind it with a maple syrup jug as the symbol. I can get behind that for sure. And then Casey King's honorable mention is Buffalo. That will conclude it for our Power 5, or I guess Hawaii Pensacola's as another one. Yes. And Isaiah, do you have anything? Oh yeah. With the Minnesota. Yeah, there was a Minnesota team for him, by the way. Sorry.
The Hawaii Pina Coladas is actually mine.
I said Pina Colas. Oh no. This is going to be my blooper, the Pina Colas. I just picture like Coca-Cola or like a cola can that says Pina and Colas on it. Oh gosh. Now it's gonna be my new hot take, my new blooper. Put it in the bracket, Isaiah. We have a newcomer.
I got a better idea. It's you fill up the pina colada cup with Coca-Cola, and you got a straw with the pineapple sticking out, so you have pina colas.
I guess so.
Or pineapple Coca-Cola, even though
that just sounds nasty. You should retract that statement. Let's move on to our final thoughts. All right, we have cities that deserve MLB teams. Let's see if the MLB can finally whip up something to have 32 teams in the MLB, but we doubt this will ever happen. But, one can pray that the MLB will seek out these venues and create a new market for us to come out and explore. But Isaiah, I'll go to you. Our final thoughts.
Well, it's been a great show for tonight. It's been a long show, but it's been so much fun. I want to thank all the fans for tuning in tonight. I want to thank Joseph Priestley, Casey King, Christy Wilson, as well as John Alcorn. That one do 2020. Casey King, Shardo Gupta. Let's see. We got a lot of comments that flooded in. Ishmael. Chardot. Also want to thank Sammy Sharp for tuning in as well. James Gonzalez also for tuning in. Really appreciate you. And Slasher for tuning in on YouTube. We really appreciate you for tuning in. And thank you guys so much for the love and the support as always. But my final thoughts, Trevor, is, I'm so excited that I get to go back to work next week, Thursday. I don't think we figured out, are we going to do no BS on Friday, because I have to work that on Friday, so I won't be able to do it. I don't know if, we figured it out or not, but we'll let the fans know, in the upcoming days.
Is this the final episode? And it's going to be like a cliffhanger. We're going to leave them with unanswered questions, and they have to make up fantasy theories of saying what happened to No B.S.
Yes, this might be the final episode, but I will let the fans know in a couple of days once we figure everything out. Also, I want to also reveal the MI6 March Madness Hot Takes Challenge poll results that we've been putting daily on Twitter. We had 4 polls on Twitter from last night all the way until tonight. The first poll was the overtime poll between me and Trevor. Trevor's take was Booker to Orlando. My take was I don't fear Ohio State, and it was a tie at first. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to announce that Trevor's Booker to Orlando take, which was number 10 against my I don't fear Ohio State, that was number 7 in the bracket. It was 7 versus 10 matchup. Trevor beats me. He takes me down. He upsets me. Booker to Orlando moves on by a vote count of 66% to 33%. So congratulations to you, Trevor. The other polls that we had was the matchup between the number 2 seeded Coach K needs to retire take, or the number 15 seeded pumpkin pie over apple pie take. It was me versus myself on that. And we have a stunning upset, fellas. The number 15 seeded pumpkin pie over apple pie takes down the number 2 seeded Coach K needs to retire take. Get this, 100% to 0. Coach K needs to retire gets shut out. An embarrassing effort by Coach K needs to retire. And the other take that we had was, or the poll that we had was, Harbaugh is a crook. My rant of Harbaugh is a crook versus John Alcorn's Seahawks need to fire their GM take. This was number 4 versus number 13. And as usual, it ends in a flippin' tie. 50 to 50, and we are going overtime once again in these polls. And right now, the poll that we have up, really encourage you guys to go on our Twitter account and go vote. It's Furman, his 3-way trade that he proposed on one of the episodes of No BS. It was Mitchell Trubisky going to the Jets, Russell Wilson going to the Bears, and Sam Darnold going to the Seattle Seahawks. It's that or me ordering a pina colada live on the air. Right now, Furman is winning 100% of the vote to 0% with 18 hours left. But that is our MI6 March Madness Hot Takes Challenge. If you haven't yet, go on our MI6 Sports Network Twitter account and go vote. We would really appreciate it. But Trevor, that's my final thoughts, man. Congratulations on the victory.
Thank you. I would give a victory speech, but my jaw is a little tired, so I'll go to Furman.
Trevor, I'll give you credit, man. You were the you were the 10th seed, and you pulled off an upset. But I still can't believe the 15-seeded pumpkin pie over apple pie take beats Coach K needs to retire and upsets the 2 seed. I mean, that's crazy. And the number 2 seed gets shut out. Unbelievable.
And Furman, your final thoughts?
All right. So my final thoughts is just, thank you guys for a great show. This was really, really entertaining because I remember the last I believe last 2 episodes or 2 episodes ago, we talked about the NFL free agency, and then now the NBA trade deadline just was over, and now we had a whole new range of topics to go over. And on top of that, we got hit up with some really big news this morning, which was ridiculous. So I'll just tell you guys this. I am not excited for this because right now it is trending on Twitter. Everybody's posting about it. I'm not the only one right here. Everybody thinks that we all traded up. The 49ers traded up to the 3rd pick to get Mac Jones instead of all these other quarterbacks. And you know what? I've said it so many times in this, in No BS, but I'm going to say it again. I have a strong gut feeling that this might actually happen. Imagine trading away your 12th pick and all your other first-round picks for Mac Jones. Who else would actually do that? I mean, Kyle Shanahan, he drafted CJ Beathard in the 3rd round, who was a 6th and 7th round prospect. So this 3rd pick is really scary, man. Please actually make the right decision. But if Zach Wilson falls to number 3, we are getting him 100%. And we're going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, first year with him? You got to take that claim back. If that going to be your bold take for the year for him, then so be it.
I take it back. Within the next 1 to 3 years of the 49ers' upcoming seasons, if they draft Zach Wilson or Trey Lance. But we'll leave it to Zach Wilson for now.
He'll throw it here on 1st down. Pressure up the middle. Wilson gets away from trouble. Oh, wide open receiver. It's caught inside the 20.
And that's how the game will go. And that's how the 49ers get into the playoffs with a play like that. But for my final thoughts, it's been a fantastic show. We crossed the 2-hour mark. So, I know our fans have been dedicated getting through this show, but I think, we can tie this show to a nice little bow tie. So I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in. Thank you so much. It wouldn't be the same without you guys, and keep up, keep tuning in for all the different shows that we have. And we'll see you all soon. Take care and stay safe and enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah. 3-6, mafia. Whoa. Hey. Whoa. Say what? 3-6, mafia. It's going down.